Howdy everyone, it's me once again, the one and only Killer Dan. And today, as you can see, I'm still continuing my Disney movie marathon, where I'll be talking about their movies, of course, the merchandising, I don't know, whatever the case may be. If it's related to Disney in any shape or form, then yes, there's a good chance I'll be talking about it. So, of course, for this video, yes, I'll be defending Disney and Star Wars. What do I mean exactly? Of course, Matt Walsh over here seems to have a hate boner towards Star Wars, specifically the sequel trilogy and whatnot, or anything Star Wars and Disney at the same time, I guess. It could be the spin offs, prequels, or whatever you call it. And he's gonna basically rant here where, oh, they hired this or that person for Star Wars? How dare you? Again, with diversity and women and all that jazz. We're doing this whole shtick again. So without further ado, here we go.
I think we can say now in retrospect that 2023 wasn't much to write home about. It was a 12-month period so dull and unimpressive that Taylor Swift won Person of the Year by default. But as we tracked and discussed throughout the year, for a company like Disney, 2023 was something beyond merely unimpressive. It was
Okay, but what's unimpressive? Oh, let me guess. Because they hired women to do Star Wars? Is that what it is? Oh boy, this is dumb.
downright catastrophic.
Yeah, that seems extremely hyperbolic. So you're already exaggerating the so-called truth over here, but sure, okay.
In fact, Disney's self-immolation was, for the rest of us, one of the year's only major bright spots. If nothing else, at least we all got to watch Disney lose a bunch of money. And so the year.
You're already lying again. Because maybe the movies themselves haven't been making that much money last year, yeah, which it wasn't. But they're still making a lot of money off the streaming services, the merchandise, even the theme parks. So they have a way to counter that, technically speaking. So
Not a total waste in hindsight.
how? No, seriously, how? Yes, I realize that he's trying to make it as if he has a point, but he really doesn't.
The New York Post details this week just how bad things got for the once great.
And how? How exactly? All you're saying is that the bad, 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 the bad, the bad, the bad. You're not giving any detail really at all.
Movie studio, reading, quote, 2023 marked Disney's 100th anniversary of making movie magic. It also marked a disastrous year at the box office. Out of 8 major theatrical releases from Disney this year, 7 of them significantly underperformed with audiences not just in the US, but overseas.
Oh well, of course you're gonna pick a female lead movie. Of course you would. And of course you can complain about that specifically. Oh no, women are the lead of a movie and it bombed. The fact that Marvel's bombed somehow means you have a point, which makes no sense whatsoever when you think about it.
The first was in February with Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. Despite an all-star cast, including Paul Rudd, Michael Douglas, Michelle Pfeiffer, and Bill Murray, the $200 million priced film earned only $250 million domestically and $476 million worldwide, far short of the $600 million it needed to break even on its theatrical run.
Again, how is this proof exactly that Disney is having financial difficulties? Technically, they're not. Even if the films have been bombing for the last year, they have other sources of income. It's not just specific movies, and that's it. What are you talking about? What?
Now, presumably, $600 million represents its production and marketing budget.
And he keeps hammering the idea, oh, they're losing money on a movie like the Marvels, a female lead movie, a female lead movie, a female lead movie, a female lead movie. They just make. I just said this. They make money in other ways as well, assuming they bought the physical media brand new and not used.
Because Disney spent well over $500 million making and promoting a film about a man in an ant costume who runs around punching bad guys. And as I understand it,
again, you're not explaining anything. You just know that the fact that there's a female lead, the fact that female lead superhero movie, excuse me, superhero I should say, was made, and that just triggers you. What? So what? Your sexism is showing there. So what? What does this have to do with anything?
Communicating with ants. From what I'm told, that's one of the superpowers of this superhero is that he can communicate with ants. Which how does that even help you when you're fighting bad? It's like a very specific kind of bad guy that you would need that would help you with. I mean, like a bad guy who's the size of an ant.
You're not talking about nothing. What you're saying here is nothing. Okay, aside from the fact that you're just gaslighting everyone into thinking that you're in the right. I see what you're doing there. I've been around long enough to see your manipulative tactics. A lot of you Christians seem to do that quite often. But again, you're not ultimately not saying anything at the end of the day.
And in that case, why do you need to communicate with it? You just step on them. So I don't know. But, in fact, this film actually was a sequel. So in total, Disney has spent over $1 billion on the Guy in the Ant costume franchise. They could have provided food for like 50 African villages for 1,000 years. But instead, they spent the money on Ant-Man.
Ant-Man was a pretty decent movie, if you ask me. So, but I don't see what that has to do with anything exactly. So what if they did? You realize to spend about that movie is not gonna be for two films, right? A budget for the film is gonna be specifically that one movie, not two.
Now, I'm not one to complain about inequities, okay, but this is a bit much. And that was only the first of their flops. As the Post highlights, another superhero movie, The Marvels, had a $274 million budget, but still hasn't cracked $100 million at the box office. And the flops continued from there. Quote, moviegoers showed signs of being tired of recycled material from Hollywood. Disney had a lot riding on its live-action remake of The Little Mermaid, starring Halle Bailey, released in May. It earned a respectable $297 million domestically, but greatly fell below expectations internationally, earning just $267 million overseas. The film had a $250 million budget. The next month, Disney released...
Again, he keeps hammering in that the Marvels failed because it's woman. It's woman because it's woman. Woman, woman, woman. And woman, 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 and woman, 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 woman. You just specifically going on this one movie. You realize that they made other flops, you know that, right? It's not just this one. Anyway, point being is that he keeps hammering the idea that this movie bombed because it's a female lead kind of a thing. Funny how he did not mention any other movie that actually made or did make a lot of money. He's just really just trying to go on this one again and again. I keep saying this again. The other incomes that Disney has is not just movies. It's pretty ignorant to think it's just the movies and nothing more. That's of course assuming you bought their merchandising, even if it's movies, physical movies. I mean, brand new and not used. Which of course the used market is actually making a killing off of this stuff. And Disney, even then, still doing quite well. Christ, you're not bringing any other factors here.
They spent $150 million remaking a movie from 2003 that was a flop the first time around. No one wanted to see it the first time, and then they did it again. And no one wanted to see it the second time. So, of course, we have to try a third time. Maybe it's... if Haunted Mansion didn't work out and the...
Again, just because the movie flopped, it doesn't necessarily mean it's bad automatically. It depends on the quality of the film. And again, I find it weird that you specify Mansion because you seem to have an issue with people from different countries to be represented in films. Are you implying that's why it failed?
The remake of Haunted Mansion didn't work out. Well, then I've got an idea. The remake of the Haunted Mansion, that's what's going to get butts in the seats. So they're just layering flops on top of flops, dud after dud. And then they remake the dud, and that's a dud too. And it's not hard to see why Disney is failing so consistently. You don't need to consult any marketing analysts or...
What are you talking about here? I mean, yes, you do need a knowledge. Some knowledge when it comes to that. You do need some kind of analysis on all this jazz. Well, what are you talking about here? That doesn't make any sense. I mean, yes, of course, I know all this ties into Star Wars because of the fact that Disney did announce that they're planning to continue the Star Wars franchise in one way or another. And of course, this is somehow stressing him out.
I mean, literally walk up to anybody on the street and to ask them how they feel about Disney right now.
And what are you talking about? There are people who are a bunch of idiots. And not anybody's going to agree with you what you're saying. If you ask for the general public, there's going to be some different opinions depending on what you're referring to. You can't just say that, what you talk about the business tactics, the movies, the theme parks. There's like a lot of stuff involving around Disney. What are you talking about exactly?
And when they tell you they don't really that they don't like Disney, ask them why. And there'll be two reasons. They'll give you two reasons why people aren't watching Disney movies. The first is that the films are almost always rehashed, stale, overdone, played out. They aren't producing anything original or interesting. I mean, Disney films are so unoriginal and derivative that you would.
And that's big gaslighting. And says the person that's part of a Christian group that just crank out a bunch of God movies. All the Christian movies all kind of the same when you think about it. Literally, these Christian movies just come off just the same. There's like hundreds and hundreds of these types of movies, and they all come off exactly the same. So, what are you complaining about here? Then you complain about Hollywood lacking originality?
Think the scripts are being written by Claudine Gay, which in fact they sort of are, or by people like her. Which brings us to the second reason that audiences, of course, are tired of the left-wing propaganda in these films.
Again, if there's anybody that's doing any kind of propaganda, it's you Christian films. They're doing propaganda, so what are you talking about? Just for the God's Not Dead movies, they made atheists and other people of different religions make them look like they're the just absolute scum of the earth. So again, if there's anybody that's having a propaganda, it's people like you.
You know, and that's it. That's the problem. That's what almost any moviegoer, no matter how they identify politically, will tell you. And that means that the solution for Disney, as we mentioned at the top, is pretty simple. Just make movies that are original, or at least somewhat original, and also not political.
What are you talking about? You could be original and make it political. It is possible to do these two things at the same time. But of course, you don't want to do that whatsoever because it goes against your narrative. It just so happens that with whatever message that movie may or may not have, you just don't agree with what's going on. And yes, it is possible. I mean, don't get me wrong. It is possible to have a female lead movie without making it political. You can't do that. But of course, you keep going on and on and on and on and on and on and how Disney does not. When I say Disney, I mean the studios and the directors and all that don't know what they're doing, and like acting as if they have an agenda. It's them that have an issue with making quality content. So if anything, I'm going to have an assumption here that if you make an inclusive movie, that somehow means that you don't make good content. It's automatically bad just because you're inclusive, especially if it's a woman. So it seems a little biased on his end because it absolutely is. And he's trying to justify with him talking here because he's acting as if he's not the toxic one. He's not the one that's closed minded. It's everyone else that is being paranoid of some kind of way.
Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy, who is set to become the first woman and the first person of color to direct a Star Wars feature film, has said it's about time. The 45-year-old Pakistani-Canadian filmmaker made her name as an Oscar-winning documentarian before going on to direct 2 episodes of the Marvel series Miss Marvel.
Okay, what does that have to do with anything? So what? I don't care really.
Her Star Wars movie, which has been written by Peaky Blinders creator Stephen Knight, is rumored to be titled either Star Wars: A New Beginning or Star Wars: New Jedi Order, is set to begin filming this year.
Oh my god, I don't care. Don't care, I don't care. Oh my god, I don't care. Don't care, don't care. Obviously, there's going to be more Star Wars content, despite the controversy surrounding the sequel trilogy and Rey. All 3 Star Wars films were highly successful. And the only one that wasn't that much of a hit was maybe Han Solo. That was only the flop, but all the Star Wars films that they produced, including Rogue One, were highly successful. So of course there's going to be more.
Quote, I'm very thrilled about the project because I feel what we're about to create is something very special, Obaid-Chinoy told CNN during their coverage of New Year's celebrations around the world. We're in 2024 now, and it's about time that we had a woman come forward to shape a story.
Technically speaking, they already had that. That was already a thing in the Star Wars films. Must I remind you of Princess Leia in the original trilogy and Padme in the prequel trilogy? So the whole female empowerment thing was already a thing. way before Disney ever bought the rights for these films. So of course there's going to be a trend within the franchise. So again, what's the problem? I don't know.
In a galaxy far, far away. Yes, it's about time. It's about time that a woman shapes a Star Wars story. Now, of course, every Star Wars film and TV show for the last decade has already been shaped by a woman. Kathleen Kennedy is the president of Lucasfilm. And the last Star Wars trilogy was about a woman. It was
You don't say it was about a woman. For all this time, I thought it was about a rock.
about a female superhuman Jedi person.
You don't say. For all this time, I thought it was about a frog. Thanks for enlightening me on all this. Much appreciated.
But even so, this is an historic moment because they're adding yet another woman. And this woman is the most feminist of them all. And just to show you that, here she is a few years ago, before she was selected to be in the
It can't be 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. What does that have to do with now?
Star Wars franchise. Here she is explaining what her goal is when she makes a film. And you might, if you don't know any better, you might think, oh, her goal when she makes a film, it must be to tell a great story that people want to see.
No. What you think is the problem versus what the actual problem is are two completely different things. Because, case in point, you just seem to have an issue with diversity being expressed in a Star Wars movie. So, okay, let's say that there was two Asians who fell in love and both are women. And you were taking an issue with that. Let's say they're just jetting and trading. I'm not saying that these two individuals are, but let's just say that they are. It would just bother you because somehow this translates to a lower quality film just because of that. So again, what's the problem here? And just because they have representation in a movie, that in itself does not mean it's political. Just because there's a lesbian character, a bisexual character, a gay character, or whatever else character, that's not enough to say it's political. It can be, but that would depend on the context of the movie, but not automatically.
Oh, no, it's not that. Here it is. Watch.
What is the balance of activating a force for change, but also trying to permeate that patriarchy, that power structure? And is that a part of the calculation of your art as well? And what's been the reaction to that?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so what? You show them talking to each other. Whoop-de-doo. So what? That doesn't prove anything. If there's anybody that has an agenda, okay, Sound of Freedom, that's a recent movie. I can use that as an example. Because, those damn libs are trying to ruin society.
Men uncomfortable. I enjoy making men uncomfortable. Not you, just not you. Not you.
Point taken, point taken.
I don't see what the issue. I know Matt is trying to make a point here about displaying this issue of something.
But, it is important to be able to look into the eyes of a man and say, I am here, and recognize that. And recognize that I am working.
Again, what's the issue exactly? Why is Matt showing this interview, or what do you even call it? Okay.
To bring something that makes you uncomfortable, and it should make you uncomfortable because you need to change your attitude. And it's only when you're uncomfortable, when you're shifty.
Yes, exactly. If something makes you feel uncomfortable, you should try and discover what's going on here. Sounds about fair.
When you have to have difficult conversations.
I still don't know what's going on here. I mean, yes, you could have difficult conversations, sure, and yes, you should address them, but it also could depend on what that is.
That you will perhaps look at yourself in the mirror and not like the reflection, and then say, maybe there is something wrong with the way I think, or maybe there is something wrong with the way I am addressing this issue.
There's your next Star Wars director.
Okay, so what? I think she's been pretty vague about a lot of this, but that aside, but she does seem to have a decent point here and there. So what's the problem?
Now, I mean, needless to say, if a man ever openly confessed that he enjoyed making women uncomfortable, he would be fired from whatever job he has, probably like sent to jail.
Okay, I know you're trying to endorse some constructive criticism, must face more like bashing, but okay.
He certainly wouldn't be hired to make the next Star Wars film, nor should he, because, by the way, enjoying making people uncomfortable that's not a normal thing for a human being. That's not healthy. You should not enjoy. Now, there are times when it's necessary to cause discomfort in other people, but you should not enjoy other people's discomfort.
What the hell are you talking about? Who said that? It was nobody in that interview, press conference, what do you call it? It was no one there that said that. She didn't say that. None of her co-workers said that. Nobody said that. The only person that's making that outlandish claim, it's you. You are saying that. So again, what are you talking about? What do you mean? What? This is dumb.
That makes you that's the definition of being like a sadist. That's the definition of sadistic. Now, all that to say, it's like we're not uncomfortable. Okay, nothing that you can say is making, when you talk about the patriarchy and men hear it, we're not, oh man, this is uncomfortable.
And again, that depends on what you're talking about. And you're speaking nonsense here again.
This is really, I feel like we're not uncomfortable. We're bored. So that's the effect that you have on men. Is you can make us bored and like irritated, and we find you tedious and dull.
What's tedious and dull exactly? You're just getting mad at the fact that there's diversity. That's literally it.
And we don't want to be around you, but it's not, discomfort is not really the word I would use. Whatever word you use, though, this is the kind of contempt that Disney has for its audience.
And again and again. What the hell are you talking about? How is showing a female lead translates to Disney has nothing but discontent to its viewers? How does that mean that? What is this business about going to jail and all this jazz about? You're just rambling on about nothing. You have not explained anything. Again, you're just getting mad at Disney for no reason.
That even after a year of failure brought on by politicized and unoriginal films, they are now gearing up to make what is sure to be their most politicized and also most unoriginal film to date.
Who hurt you, man? Seriously, who hurt you? You sound extremely miserable right now. I mean, okay, then again, you always did, but seriously, why trying to take away everybody else's joy? If you don't want to watch any of these movies, then don't. This just tells me that maybe you secretly like them, and you just don't want to admit it. Because you keep consistently bringing up these Star Wars films, the new films, of course, over and over and over and over and over and over again. What the hell? And if there's anybody that's guilty of just cranking the same garbage over and over again, it's you Christians, because all of you movies come off exactly the same, 100%. Even if there's some details that are different, but the overall nutshell is just pretty much the same thing. Gotta struggle because society's tasting your faith, maybe because the schools don't allow prayer anymore, or something like that, because there's some kind of persecution going on, because a lot of you Christians show love to play the victim of some kind. But anyway, there's some kind of, or maybe the atheists are bad people, or what have you. There's some kind of course, convoluted scheme to say that all Christians are being persecuted, which is a lie. And this is also why you don't really see me talk about Christian movies all that often, because, well, rarely I should say, because these movies, some of the movies are really boring.
It's become kind of a war of attrition with the audience. And they assume
It's the person that support these kinds of movies comes Christians. There's so many of these. What are you talking about?
that you'll eventually come back and you'll start giving them your money again, especially if it's.
What do you mean? What are you talking about? What did they do exactly? What?
Star Wars, because it's Star Wars, and you'll just sort of dutifully show, even if you know the movie's going to suck, you'll
Okay, but again, what did they do?
show up anyway and give me your money because it's Star Wars and this is what I do. That's what they're assuming.
But what did they do?
But now you need to prove them wrong and make this the year that Disney is, once and for all, finally
But what did they do exactly?
canceled. If you'd like to see what else I have to say, you can access my full show by going to dailywire.com or by going to the Matt Walsh Show Twitter page. Hope to see you there. Godspeed.
Again, what did they do? I still don't know. That's how his video ends. But what did they do exactly? What happened here? I don't know. I don't know what happened here. What did Disney do that to deserve your quote unquote constructive criticism? Like I was saying earlier, folks, let me wrap it up on my end because it just goes into what I already said. It's just the fact that women are being the main characters in these movies. That's it. That's literally it. Even though Star Wars already had female leads way before Disney ever bought the rights. This just tells me he knows nothing of the lore, the comics, and whatnot. I mean, don't get this twisted either. I'm not the one to claim to be an expert either, okay? I'm not saying that, alright? Just throwing it out there. But I know enough to know a thing or two when it comes to expanded lore. There were already female characters in comics, video games, TV shows, you name it. This was already there. This already had female leads within the expanded universe. Not just the movies themselves, but the franchise as a whole. I mean, yes, before anyone tells me anything, is that I do realize that there are some Star Wars films that just pay attention to the films, and that's it. They just completely ignore the expanded universe itself and just embrace the movies, and that's it, and nothing more. I mean, you can miss out a lot of context, but you could do that if you want. Anyway, that aside, I'm aware. Anyway, but point being, the female leads were already there. They were already there. They were already there. And again, they were already there. So I don't understand what's bothering him, really. Because, yes, I know it's the whole thing with the female lead. It bothers him that there's a female lead. I know that. But what I'm trying to say here is that I don't understand why. Of the Republic, Part 2, the main female character is female. That's a woman. And she's a renegade. So again, I don't see the problem, and that was made before Disney bought the rights. And that'll be it, folks. So thanks for watching. This is just ridiculous. Later, folks. See ya. Oh yeah.